And we are live. Welcome to Totally Unscripted. I'm Martin Hoxie. That's Charles. That's Alice. That's Clara. That way. Got it right.
Kara was going to do the introductions.
No, Alice. I always do the first word and then casually hand it off to someone else who's better at that sort of thing. So, Kara, what are we talking about today?
I'm super stoked for today. We are actually talking about smart chips and link previews throughout Google Workspace, which is really exciting. It's a newer addition to Workspace solutions, and we have a couple great guests to give us some more information and even show us some very fun demos.
Excellent. And I think, Alice, this is something you've talked about in the past, that, you know, surfaces like Google Docs and Sheets, they're becoming the application. They're not paper-based things anymore. So this is very much about enhancing, improving, giving whatever you're doing elsewhere in the world an opportunity to integrate that into Google Docs and Sheets and elsewhere.
I think you're right about that. For my evidence, sorry.
One of the things that we see is, you know, documents and spreadsheets especially have become kind of the starting point and ending point really for workflows. And so having these chips that are actionable and having the ability to bring data in, simple things like the people chip that is built in or the calendar chip, those are amazing, right? Because now you actually have relevant content inside a cell or inside your paragraph. And so the unique thing now is obviously you can customize those, which is going to be the theme of the show. And so my question, I'd love to know, we hear link previews and smart chips and link previews, and the words are used interchangeably, which I like, but I'm also confused by at times.
So, I think maybe just before we get our guest as well, I think we should shout out Ben Collins, who kindly put us in his newsletter this week as well. And just by sheer fortune, chance, Ben has written about smart chips. So if you've not come across Ben's post yet, please do go and check it out. And I'll give you some context in terms of what's capable out of the box with what Google provides. And then you can do more, and we'll show you how to do more, which is a great, I think, segue to bring on our guests.
Awesome. So our guests that are going to join us today, first of all, we have Allison Hodson. Allison's actually a tech writer who has helped create a lot of the content around smart chips and has created one of the kind of typical samples that you will see. And Allison's going to actually walk us through some of that. So Allison, thank you for joining us. And also coming is Pierrick Voulet, who's actually on the developer relations team. And Pierrick is relatively new to our team, but he's been at Google for a little while. But he's also built some really great third-party, the ability to add content from third-party resources using smart chips as well, too. So welcome both to the show. Thanks so much.
Great to be here. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, so excited to have you guys here. And just to kick things off, you know, we're talking about smart chips, and now they add so much more to the experience when you put in a link into something like Google Docs, or even, you know, adding a link preview to chat. Can you, you know, kind of lay the foundation on what the difference is between just a regular link interaction versus a smart chip in Workspace?
Sure. Is that for me?
Sure. Allison, let's hear from you first.
Yeah. So what a smart chip really does is it adds an interface to a link. So a typical hyperlink doesn't tell you very much. It doesn't give you more information in the context of where Google Workspace users are working. But with smart chips, what you can do is you can get a lot more information. Not only does it have this interactive kind of chip, essentially, just that you can customize with an icon, you can customize what the text actually says in the chip. It also lets you preview unique content from a third-party service directly where users are at. And the other great thing about having it for developers is that Google Workspace products already do this. So if you drop a link from Google Slides or Google Docs or Google to Google Sheets, they're going to generate a smart chip. So now if your service is, if you're linking all these different things from all these different places across Google Workspace, and then you drop a link from your service, it's going to also generate and look like a chip, which creates a more uniform experience. And it's just what users basically want.
Oh, wow, that's really cool. And when you create a third-party chip, is there any potential for interactivity on that chip that you can add to the link preview experience?
Yeah. So you can add buttons and like to get more information. And then I think, Kara, I know you have a lot more information about like generating resources and things like that. So there's a lot more than for smart chips that I've just learning about since it's just launched.
Yeah, absolutely. And before we get into like third-party resource creation, what are all the services that people can create third-party chips for? It's what, Google Docs, and then there's more, right? Chat, you can do link previews.
Yes.
And yeah, let's hear more about that.
Yeah, so Google Sheets, Google Docs, Google Chat has a unique, slightly different kind of feature where you can preview links and generate cards. It's a little bit different than the chips themselves, but you can preview content, just the same functionality. It's the same thing people want in Google Chat. They want more information about a link in Google Chat. So you can do that in Google Chat as well with a slightly different implementation.
Okay. Very cool. Okay, so Pierrick, I'd love to hear from you on this as well. When we talk about smart chips, what are some of the advantages you see versus maybe some of the limitations that developers might run into as they start to add these things into all of these workspace applications?
Well, I think they bring some value to different people. They bring value to the users. We said that, right? Like having context, being able to take actions directly from the documents. So that's one aspect of it. I do believe they also come with some value for the admins, the 3Ps, and the developers in some ways, because they are efficient tool, to define some workflows somehow and best practices on how to do something. Like it's kind of streamlined, right? You just have a limited set of buttons, for example, in a card. So you show to the user what you're supposed to do or how you should react to some status on the project or something like that. So admins, 3Ps can also show their brands, meet the user where they are, this kind of things. In terms of limitations, well, we had the limitation until the beginning of this year, and this is kind of related to the latest development that we're having, and this create resource smart chips. Before that, we could only preview things. We could not really create new resources directly from the document, and this is something that we are getting out of beta and is now in GA, I believe. It's being rolled out right now. So the idea is that you don't really have the resource yet created, but you need to do that on the fly. So what you will be doing is you're in a meeting, maybe writing some notes, and then you will basically use some extension to create this resource on the fly using a form with some inputs and this kind of things. And then this resource will be created and will come back with a link. And this link will be the base for the smart chip. So you will see this smart chip with the preview and so on, as usual, directly in the documents. So I believe this is the latest improvements, and it was kind of one of the main limitations. We could not do that before. But yeah, there are other limitations. If I don't know how much time we have on that one, but I guess I can pick one or two of them. So the user needs to click on the smart chip, right? So you cannot really see that in the document directly. I think this is not it's not really embedded per se. You have to click on the link on the smart chip to see the information. So I think that's one limitation in terms of business. And then we're also missing some context. The smart chip will only be specific to the URL. It's kind of missing the overall context of the document, for example. So that's another limitation, I guess. It's worth mentioning.
What's the authentication flow like? So is it a similar experience in terms of workspace add-ons where, for example, if a domain administrator has a smart chip that add-on that they want to install, they can force install it for everyone, and the authentication flow is a lot easier, or is there pop-ups coming up for people to authorize if they're coming to the doc for the first time?
Well, I can take a stab at that one. So authentication is really similar to everything that we have currently. So we said we have features in chat and in Google Workspace add-ons. Everything that is related to authentication will be similar. It's nothing is specific to the preview links or the resource creation specific features. The only thing, I guess, is the auth scope that will be different. You have one for preview link and one for the resource creation. So if you already have an existing extension or solution, and then you want to upgrade that with preview or other things, then the scope will change, and likely the consent and everything will have to be done again.
Yeah, and something really interesting about that I really like about SmartChips is we have a really, to Eric's point, that we have a really specific scope for just previewing links. So you always want to use the most narrow scope possible, and this scope allows you to the add-on just to access any links and read whether they match that URL pattern. So you don't have to use a really highly restrictive scope like allowing the add-on to read your entire Google Docs document, which is like way more information than you need. So it's really limited and it's less sensitive of a scope, and it helps you really narrow the use of the add-on.
So I love a developer talk show where everybody jumps right into authentication, innovation queues, and all those things. I just want to step back for a second. Why? What are the use cases? What do you see people building? So first of all, I've seen, and I love my favorite smart chip, simple one is the people smart chip. Right, I can turn a name into a person. I can add somebody and bring it right into the document. I can do things like get their email, get contact information. I get all that great action out of it. What are some of the great entities that you've seen people use? I mean, if you look at, for example, inside of Docs today, we have date, people, file, counter, event, place, voting chip, stopwatch, timer, variables, and placeholder chips. And let me just shout out, by the way, that Tim mentioned that the placeholder chips are super awesome. And these are great components for building out templatized solutions. These are all first party though. What are some of the things, and again, shout out if you built one yourself or you're using it, what are the things you see people doing, or what would you recommend would be great use cases for these third-party entity type chips? And anybody can grab it. It's an open question.
I would say one, there's a lot of obviously public, services or third-party services that would be great for this. But I specifically love to call out the large Google Workspace organization that has a lot of internal systems. So if you want to be able to have like your ticketing links or support case links or any internal service you wanted to preview, it would really help your organization and all your users really understand and work and in the context that they're at. So I think that's a really cool example of like internally for organizations, just to be able to have links that have more meaning and context there. Like the people, for example, Charles, like you could get more information about the employees and get, like even a bio or a profile information. Some of that's internal to the organization. So I think there's a lot of great use cases for like large organizations for like internal apps, internal add-ons. But I know there's a lot of public instances too.
Absolutely. Alice, have you seen anything specific that you'd like to see, or you're contemplating building, or maybe you've seen somebody build that relates obviously to the EDU space?
I told you not to put me on the spot. I have a cold. I'm really looking around how to integrate more with like rubrics and feedback and things like that. You have a lot of documents and resources that you're using around student work that they're in other places and they're hard to be side by side and to embed that in. So I'd like to see a little bit more of that seamless integration to help teachers to connect more things along with the students.
That's awesome.
I guess as well. So, I was going to say, just then, my experience with education is you've got lots of students out there potentially doing individual things, but if you've got a central place to have oversight of that, to be able to quickly see, for example, what has been updated somewhere else without having to click through I think can have big benefits. I think there's a lot of educational systems out there with APIs, so I think it'd be really interesting to see which ones grab the reins on this one and just go for it.
I wonder also if this is something that once you develop a little bit more around the EDU space to help drive some more customers towards the paid version, because the version that's free, for example, the timer chip isn't available for those teachers.
I don't know if this is a good lead-in as well, because whenever I've looked at smart chips, they look really easy to make. So I don't know if this is a good kind of, let's see the code. George is probably going, wait, you don't want to see the code just yet. But I do.
Well, the good news is, from what I understand, and we will see in a second, is it's actually not that involved, right? I mean, these aren't overly engineered. I think the value of them is the fact that it allows you not to context switch out of a document for a user, and you can actually get more information. For a developer, you can actually add this functionality and bring your application, bring your data closer to where the user is working in Workspace, which I think, to me, is the value add. I guess the one question I have on that, why wouldn't you build one of these things? And again, maybe we should see the code first, but I think if you have an entity, if you have some data that you'd like to expose in a document, I think they make perfectly good sense. Maybe understanding how we actually do that would be helpful. Who would like to show us an example? I know most folks here have built one. Allison, would you like to jump in and show us a smart chip in action so we can get a little more insight?
You're on the spot now, Charles.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're getting it live there, but we're watching you zoom in. We can have Garrett do it if you'd rather.
Wait, are you talking to me? I cut out for a second. I'm sorry.
Yes, we saw you freeze up a little. I was a little like, she's with us.
Yeah. Okay, so everyone stopped and I was like, I think that was a question for me, but so I'm sorry. No, I'm happy. Would you like me to do the demo?
That's absolutely good.
Okay,
Set up the demo
all right.
while you're showing. Absolutely.
Okay, let me present. So, 1 second. Yes. So I want to share this window. Let me make sure everyone can see it. Are you seeing it okay?
There we go. You are up.
Great. Okay. So I want to show a really simple example. Again, I think the implementation, if you've built anything in Google Workspace, or even if you haven't, this is a really approachable add-on to get started with. So I'm using an example from Google Books. So if you're not familiar, Google Books is like Google search for Google Books, or for books, basically. It's a really comprehensive database of information that you can search for books, and there's links to books and more information. So if you take a look at this Google document, this is without the smart chips, right? It's really boring links. These are 3 links about computer science books. You can kind of tell what the title of the book is, but that's pretty much it. There's not a lot of information. So I'm going to dig into the code in a minute, but basically I'm going to jump to the fun part. I want to show you already what this would look like with the add-on. So if I'm just going to pull down to the next page here, this is what it would convert into. So essentially, instead of these links, you have the title, you have a book icon, it previews information about the book. Let's see. Yeah. So you can see there's like a visual thumbnail of the book, which is a really great way of just like capturing information really quickly, like just recognizing the title or the cover, things like that. And all of this information you see here, like the author, the title, the page count, the summary, all of this is configurable. This is what I decided would be the most pertinent information, or I'm like, what would users want to see in the Google document, Google Docs document here? That's what I customized this interface for. So now that we've seen what the results are, I want to show you the sample that we do have in our documentation. I'm hoping we can share the link maybe after this with everybody, but if not, it's really easy to find on our AppScript documentation. So, yeah. Okay. So here is in AppScript. This was all built in AppScript. We have a manifest file, which basically shows you, this is how you configure the add-on.
I'm sorry, so we're having a little delay on you on the screen.
Oh, no.
So where we go, we need to catch up.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yes, please stop me if you're not seeing what I'm seeing here. So yeah, so everyone's seeing it, right?
Got it.
Perfect. Okay. So now, essentially, there's two parts. There's just two files in this. There's the manifest, which is configures the add-on. It tells you what the add-on looks like, the name of it, the icon. It gives you, you put your OAuth scopes, what you need to authorize, and then it tells you what you want your add-on to do. So in this case, we're extending Google Docs. This is where we want the smart chips to appear. So yeah, I'm just going to point out a few things. And if you're not familiar with creating an add-on, there's a few just important notes here. OAuth scopes is something we talked about earlier with authentication, authorization. This is what we're telling users they're going to authorize your add-on to do. We want them to use this scope. You're going to basically say the user's going to say, yep, you can look at links in my documents and then decide to preview them or not. That's what that one is. And then we also need this scope because we're calling with Google Books. There's a Google Books API, which is public, which is going to allow us to query information about books, which is why this makes it a really good example for previewing content. So this is a scope that says, yep, I'm allowing you to call a third-party service outside of Google Workspace. From here, there's just some more information about the add-on. And then this is the really interesting piece that is totally customizable that you can do when you are creating a third-party smart chip. And essentially it's saying, if you're doing this in Google Docs, which is what the Docs object is, you're going to add some triggers. And essentially what you're going to look for is you're going to say, if a link in a Google Docs document matches this pattern.
Allison, sorry to interrupt you. I didn't see this.
Yeah, we're frozen.
Your screen is not drawing too fast.
Oh, no. Wait, okay. So I'm in under Docs, link preview triggers. Are you seeing that?
No.
Well,
No,
it's on
we're
the
still
bottom.
on your manifest.
Yeah.
For some reason, your screen is not refreshing. We have the internet demons with us today.
Yeah.
We can't escape them, Charles. Everywhere we go, the internet
Let me
does not follow.
Is it still frozen? That's so interesting.
There we go.
Well, it scrolled down finally, but other than that.
Okay, yeah. It's showing the, it's like hovered over patterns, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Nailed it. Okay, cool. I should look more at what you're all seeing just to make sure it's actually that would be a good practice. Okay. So yeah, essentially here in the manifest, we're telling it what will trigger a link preview. And essentially with a link, you just want to see what is the pattern of the URL. So if it matches what the Google Books URLs look like, then we want it to do something. So that's what this run function is. We're going to tell it to preview a book essentially. And I'm going to show you what that function does in just a moment. But yeah, essentially all you have to do in the add-on is tell you what the add-on is named, what URL patterns to look for, and then what it should do, what should it return and preview when it does recognize a link. So really simple in terms of the manifest. Yeah.
The neat thing there is you can put multiple patterns in. You can have different ways of actually, or even different URLs, so to speak, and capture all through one. And actually, you could build one that manages all different types of scenarios in your organization, which is kind of neat.
Looks like
you can have multiple triggers. Exactly. You don't have to you can have multiple types of triggers. Like it could be books, it can be another thing. It doesn't have to be just one type of like. Exactly.
Awesome.
Yeah. And even here, I just I like Spanish. So I have a localized version of the smart chip. So if your users are, using Spanish, their Google Docs experiences in Spanish, it would generate different labels and stuff like that. So that's a really fun part for localization.
Just one question in terms of if you multiple add-ons, but they've got the same kind of, they're looking for the same prefix. Which one will get shown?
Yeah, so that's where I think you would have to add multiple. So this is the link preview triggers is a list or an array. So you would essentially have different types of triggers. So you would have to, figure out a way for it to be unique based on the URL itself, I believe. Yeah. I don't know if it could talk to, like, it would have to have a unique trigger for each one. Yeah. Alrighty. So I'm going to slowly go into the next file, everybody. Get ready. Is it happening?
Not yet. We'll let you know.
Funny because
the suspense is killing us.
I know, right? It's so dramatic. In my version of the preview, like I'm seeing it on our screen, so that's really interesting. It says it's already there. So.
Oh, that's wild. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll slowly get over there. I can fill I can fill and just get us all the suspense leading up. But essentially what I'm going to be showing you is what those functions are. So we already told in the manifest, we configured them out to say, we're good? Okay. Awesome. So basically we're going to look at what happens when the add-on recognizes the links. So we have one function that we're going to use that is just to call the Google Books API, because the URLs have an ID, which is a volume ID for the book. So essentially we need to have a function that parses the URL and finds the ID and then returns information about the book, just brings that data into the function. And we're going to use that function in the book link preview. So remember, that was the one. So book link preview is the one that was in the manifest and says this is what you're supposed to do when you recognize a link. So there's an event object that's passed whenever a link is dropped into Google Docs. And then you're going to find whether it matches the URL pattern that you have. And if it does, you're going to find the ID of the book from the URL. Then you're going to call the Google Books API, and then you're going to get all the data about the URL and the book, and then you can customize a card interface, which is what I showed you earlier. If you want the book cover, the page number, anything that you think is going to be relevant and consistent for that service. So essentially, yeah, you can just see how it just sets all these different areas and fields, and then it returns the card, and that's what you get. You get a preview of the book, and pretty straightforward. And I would say that this is a great sample to also try with other public APIs. So if you start using this sample and you really like it, just, figure out another API you want to try it out with, or, just start. You can use this as the basis for your link previews and get started with it.
This is
so
great.
One thing I love about this is, first of all, if I'm seeing correctly, it's like 50-ish lines of code.
I was just going to say that.
Which like I said, I always like less code, even though there's a show about coding. It seems super easy. Is it super easy? And how does this differ from a traditional add-on? I mean, the publishing process, the folks installing it, it's just an add-on, correct?
Yeah, what's unique about this is it's like a really simple implementation, and this can be the add-on. Like if you have an existing add-on, you could, try to have it support, like link previews as well. But if you don't have an add-on, this could be the add-on, just previewing links. So this is in itself something publishable to the marketplace, which is super cool. But you can also have it as a part of an existing add-on if you just want to add this functionality. But yeah, not a lot of code to get it working, which is really cool.
So if you want the code, there it is. It's up on GitHub. You can actually check it out and actually build your own or extend that. So definitely neat.
One thing a tip I would give is I think people might be slightly daunted by building stuff with the card service, but there is a great tool out there that can help with that. So obviously not all the components within the card. This tool, I just put a comment in the YouTube chat. So it's not all going to be there, but pretty much a lot of it. So in fact, let me just bring it up. So here it is.
So we have some news on the card service, just the CardBuilder tool, just so you know, if you look at the very top of this.
Oh, let me switch.
It is technically, I'm going to deprecate it. If you actually follow through, it will actually switch over to the new one. And you will see
shiny
a new version up there. So you can get there the same way, or you can catch the new URL. We'll actually put that in the description, but that just happened. And so, Martin, you probably did not even know that yet.
Yeah,
I did not know that. I'm learning.
And Allison, I know that the link previews, there's a limitation to the types of widgets you can use, but you created some great documentation that has a very clear list of what link previews support. So definitely check out the stuff from Allison, because it's incredibly helpful to help you build your first link preview. What I would like to see is, as Pierrick mentioned, we are also rolling out the ability to create your third-party resource and then bring it back as a link preview, which I think adds a whole new world of possibilities for these use cases. Pierrick, would you be willing to show a demo of that flow?
I can do that. And before that, if we have time, I can also show how it looks like in chat. I mean, it's pretty similar to what Alison did, but there are a few specificities. So maybe I can start with that.
Sure.
Do you guys see my screen well?
Yep.
All right. So still based on some guide we have online. So feel free to check it out. So basically, what happens here is that we have a chat app. I'm discussing with this troubleshooting chat app. And as you can see here, I have a specific link. So what I want to have here is a preview for that. So I'll just put this link in a new message. And as you can see, troubleshooting app is able to preview this link. So I will just send the message and see how it looks. After a while, you see that a card can be added directly in the message. So the message will be updated with the card. And this card is generated by the app. So here, based on the link, you may see that we are talking about cases, and there is a specific ID 123. So it's just like, in a real life situation, you will just pull the information from an external service and maybe give more information about the status. Something that you can see as well is that we have actions. So we can actually have links and take actions on this specific resource. So here, for example, I will assign to me. It will basically do whatever it has to do and come back to me and update the card in a message so that it's up to date. As you can see now, it's assigned to me. It's assigned to you, which is me. So it worked. Yeah, so this is how it looks like. In terms of coding, well, there is a bit of configuration. It's pretty similar to what Alison's said already. There is some URL patterns that we need to define. So this because we are in the chat apps, we define that directly from the Google Cloud Console. And you can see that here I created one of them. So this is why my app is able to preview this link. It recognizes it. In terms of code, I have a cloud function this time because, again, something that is really nice is that we can use AppScript, but also any alternative runtimes. And here I'm using Node.js. And it's pretty simple code as Alison. You see that when something happens, either I update when there is an action on the card that already exists, or I create the card in the first place. And in terms of message, you just, this is a chat information here, but basically you will basically create widgets, and the same way you would do for an add-on, you create that with regular card widgets and so on. And here, for example, are the different buttons that I have at the bottom. So yeah, that's pretty much it for the chat, at least for the differences. But I will let you dig a little bit deeper if you want with the guides. When it comes to the resource creation, which is only available from add-ons, what you will have is something similar to Alison. So here, what I have is a preview link that I have defined, this time for support cases. So this is why when I click on this link, I do see that an app is installed and can preview the information directly from this link, from this information. So here we'll just make it a ship, and I now have it the same way Alison did for Google Books, but for support cases. But let's say that now you are in a meeting, you are discussing a new issue, and you want to create a new one so that it's created in the external system and someone can deal with it. What you will be doing is use the search menu here, and you can search for your app. Here I have manage support cases, which is my application, and I can create support case. So that will create a new resource one. So I click on enter, and you will see that it generates a card for me, a dialog somehow. So here we have the form, so we can basically create a new case based on some information. So I will say, I don't know, case 321, description 321, and put some priority here, maybe P3, and say it blocks a critical customer information. I will try to create it. And as you will see here, it fails because we have some validation on the application. So you can here if we block a critical customer operation, we should be a big priority. So that's why I need to select at least P0 or P1 here. So I just click create this time, and you will see that it will behind the scenes go to the external system, create the support case, and come back with the link that is associated to this new case. And as you can see now, I have my preview of this new associated with this new link that was generated based on the resources that we created. And as you can see, we have more information about it the same way we had for the other one. So here it's a case 3 to 1 instead of case 1 to 3. Yeah, so in terms of code, pretty similar for the preview link. So I won't cover that, but in the manifest for the creation.
Sorry, can you make it a little bit bigger?
Yeah.
Sure. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought
your dark mode made that a dark hole as far as I.
Is it better?
Yeah.
All right. So the main difference with Allison is this new trigger that we'll have. We have the create action trigger, which is specific to the resource creation. So here, kind of the same idea, right? You provide your URL of the service that you want to handle this kind of calls. And here, what I have is a cloud function, and this time it's running on Python. And this is basically doing everything that I displayed to you, right? Building the form, validation, so updating the card in case there is some errors, and also maybe contacting the external service. Here, I'm not doing that, obviously, because it's just an example, but you could expand that. So pretty straightforward. There is a little bit more code here compared to Allison, but that's because we have all this validation, and it's not only the happy pass and view, it's also the interactions that we are dealing with here. So that I think that's why you have a bit more code. But yeah, so pretty similar. We'll just create our card, taking into account the different validation errors and showing that up if it's necessary. And as you can see at the end, the card will be either on an update or the basic form that is pushed in the first place. So it might be slightly different information that you return in that case, but you see it's not usually different. Most of the code will be a card. Otherwise, it's all about building the specific action depending on the context that is of the navigation that is happening. Otherwise, it's all about validation. So this is what's happening here, getting back the information from the link, from the form, validating if everything is fine. If it is fine, then what we'll do here is create the link that we want to be injected, to be embedded in the documents, so that it can be previewed. So that's what we do here with this specific link render action function. So I will just get there, and you will see that it's pretty simple. The only thing we do is provide the link that we want to add. And this time, we just provide it with a specific title and with the specific URL. So this is what generates the smart chip directly for you in the document, so that you don't have to create that afterwards. Hopefully that's helpful. Is there any questions or anything you guys have for that?
So I have a couple of questions on that, actually.
Okay.
Sorry,
There's a queue.
I jumped in first. First of all, I'm going to pop this up there so folks can see it to learn more about it. First of all, this is relatively new, correct, Garrick?
Yes, it's new. I think it's being released into GA. I believe 1 or 2 weeks ago it started. So it's I believe it's still in a rollout phase, but we already have documentation for it, and it was accessible with the the preview developer program as well before that. So that's I'm
going to say this. I like smart chips, but I love this, and this allows you to take action from within the document. While you were showing that and talking about it, I felt like you were describing a similar flow, both from the development standpoint as well as the user standpoint, of how we actually can create a chat app and pull a dialogue and take action and do something. Here, you just move the surface from inside a chat to now you're inside a docs. how similar are they to build, and how similar is the user experience? Like, obviously there's some overlap, and obviously I know the answer to this is it depends, but when do you build which?
So I would say that it depends on where your user is and maybe the habits they have. If they usually walk in chat because maybe they're working on something that is like urgent all the time, like to support case team, they will manage cases and be always chatting about it or something. So I'm guessing chat app will be nice for that kind of situations. But if you're more like into building, creating documents, and maybe working on some reports on Meet, these kind of things, then obviously smart chips there will be beneficial as well. So I guess it's not really about the features. It's more about where your user is and what is the most meaningful for them. In terms of technical differences, again, it's same kind of technologies, same challenges, same everything for both of them. It's not something groundbreaking in terms of implementation, but it's not the same implementation between the two. So that means that if you do something in add-ons, you cannot just copy paste and have that in chat apps, right? Same thing for the other features. So it's not new thing. But you can still build or structure your code so that the cards, for example, are mostly reusable. So you can do some functions and make that modular so that you can avoid most of the duplication.
Yeah, no, that's what I was wondering, because I can see where if you already have a chat app that's doing those type of things, you simply want to port it over. It's actually not a huge stretch, and like you said, let the user determine where they use your app from, where it makes sense to them. Now you have two great flavors with basically a very similar code base, obviously not the same, but a similar code base.
Yeah.
My question relates to, so you've shown how you've developed that with an alternative runtime. So the documentation covers that you can also do this with AppScript. Are you seeing what was kind of the decision point in terms of, should people be looking to develop this in AppScript or an alternative runtime? What's the pros and cons? What things should people be considering when making that decision?
So specifically for smart chips, I'm not sure. I don't think smart chip is specific, right? It's more like how your team develops, and is your product or whatever you want to build mature enough. If it's not mature, go for AppScript, prototype it, play with it, collaborate on the doc with people, and and if something breaks, it's not a big deal. If you want to get more control over the Google Cloud project, or maybe get something on premise, or build your libraries and do some pipelines with testing and so on, I would suggest to go with something you have a bit more control over, and that will be our alternative runtimes. But it depends on the teams, depends on whatever you're building. If it's just a small smart chip, to preview something from public APIs, I feel like AppScript is totally fine, for example.
I think as well, we should probably just shout out AppSheet as well. Is recently announced the ability to prove their add-on to, if you're developing AppSheet apps, to have a similar sort of experience with cards. So just to add to the complication in terms of which route you go down, there's another one for people to think about. Answers on the postcard if you got the best route for these as well.
Absolutely.
Perfectly good. So first of all, I think it's super exciting. I think the ability to actually take action from a document, hopefully sooner than later, that'll find its way to other applications. Is there anything else coming out that maybe you can share or not share but hint about? Or is there anything, like, where do you see this going? Like, what are some of the momentums that you see from, obviously, working with some of the teams internally? Like, is there any news?
Well, at least I can tell for me, I'm not a PM, so I won't give a roadmap here, that's for sure. But I'm curious to see how developers will integrate, the AI features into that. I'm really looking forward to Kara's development on that. I know you're playing a bit with it, so maybe sometime we'll have something in Marketplace and we'll be able to see how we can integrate with AI. But yeah, I'm guessing people will play with it, and I'm kind of curious to see where it will land. And another thing is, I would love to see or to be able to customize other types of ships, right? We said, like, we have this, for example, people may know the data extraction from sheets, and it's quite powerful, but it feels like we cannot really customize that as a developer. And I wonder if this is something that might be of any use. That's the kind of things I will be looking out for the future, and yeah, we'll see where it goes.
Yeah, no, I think they're pretty exciting. Actually, you bring up a great point. I know we're at time, but Kara, you do have a really interesting use case that I'd like to egg you on to show. And I know I said we're at time, and I apologize if we go a little long, but Kara, you've got this really neat internal solution.
And you thought you were going to.
Would you like to show it off?
Sure, yeah. So what I did was I was trying to, at first, I wanted to solve for the case where maybe you don't have an API like the Books API and you want to create a smart chip for a website. And so I created a preview, a link preview with a smart chip in Docs for our developer documentation website. And then once Gemini came out, I decided to see if I could generate a page summary of the page within my link preview. So I'm more than happy to show that to you guys. Let me jump in here. And this is just our fun list of chips to demo today. And down here is where you have this link preview. And in Sheets, and this is one of the things that I would actually like to see come out soon, is the ability to have a smart chip in Sheets and Slides. Right now, we can have the link preview here where you get the title of the page. And then under About This Page, this summary here actually takes the content of the page, sends it to Gemini, and Gemini spits out a nice brief paragraph telling us what the page is about. And so far, it's been working very well.
I love it. This is so cool, Kara.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, and I'll just do a quick example in Docs as well, so you can see the chip experience. It's really great. It's like, it was actually the hardest thing for us, and I'll jump into the code to show you, was trying to get the right information, because the HTML of our pages is so heavy. But the first thing I want to show you guys in my project was, now that you can have link previews in Docs, Sheets, and Slides, it's pretty simple to add Sheets and Slides to an existing link preview if you've already built one for Docs. So what I've done here, and if you remember from Allison's demo, is if you're looking for a matched URL, instead of naming the host app directly, you can do it dynamically. And from the event that you receive, find out what the host app is, dynamically add it when you're looking for a matched URL, and then you can use the same code if you want to have the same link preview in each.
So by host app, it's Docs, Sheets, or Slides.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
So then what I've done for Gemini is, like I said, the HTML of our developer documentation is huge, and I didn't want to send so many tokens to Gemini to slow it down, and then it has all this extra information about our nav and stuff that might mess up the actual summary. So I used some regex to grab the let me scroll down a bit. Okay, so I use some regex to grab the first paragraph on the page, and I start there and I grab all the content on the page. But if that content is more than, I think I have it set to 2,500 characters. Sorry, this is a little bit all over the place. Okay, so I set my max characters to 5,000, which is about, I want to say, 500 words or so. And I plug that information into this prompt here
That's because you use big words. Mine will be way more.
What's that? What'd you say?
That's like 10 letters of words.
Yeah, well, it was like, it doesn't take a lot for it to be able to build a summary in terms of content that you feed it. But one of the interesting things was I first started with the URL and I was getting mixed results. So I needed to grab some of that page content and actually put it inside the prompt. But I couldn't create a huge prompt because then I would go over the token limit. And so just cutting out that little chunk of the page and then inserting it into this prompt here is what really helped me with accuracy. And of course, it's AI. So I don't know if you noticed in the link preview, I add a, results may vary at the bottom because
I like that.
too.
I also noticed in the prompt, do not use the term G Suite.
Yeah. Yes, every so often I would get a use of G Suite, and I was like, this is not accurate information. And so, I've had to really, and the prompt can be often one of the most important things. And I've noticed that repetition can help. So if you'll notice here, in one short paragraph, create a short description. And sometimes, you can say, up to 3 sentences or up to 5 sentences, use bullet points. Like if this is something you want to try, I would just very much play around with your prompt and see what works best for the response you're trying to get. But so I use regex to grab the page title from the page, and then Gemini gives me the page summary. And, just like everybody else, it's a very simple build on the card where I just, I'm using JSON here to use the title. I hard-coded about this page, and then the summary gets plugged in there. And it's a great intro to add-ons and AI to do it.
I think as well, it's like an amazing use case, and I can see it being used in so many different ways in terms of, wherever you can get, send data into Gemini to, support tickets, docs that students have created. Alice, cough. Alice Keeler, that is. So I can see lots of, applications for that model of, link preview, Gemini. Great recipe.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Thanks.
Oh, we can't hear Charles now, or is it just me?
I can't hear Charles either.
I was muted to make sure I didn't overspeak. I know, because imagine the use case, right? Karen, your team, you put out a lot of content, Allison, right? And you have all these links. I can literally hover over in a doc that summarizes them all. And before I go through and figure out is this the right one, I get that summary right there. I think the use cases are endless on it, right? Yeah. And you saw, Allison took 50 lines of code to actually, show you somebody else's API. Kara, put another 50 lines on top of that with AI. And now she's actually synthesizing the results from a page back and making it easier. I think the use cases are going to be super amazing.
I also really like Kara and her example of return JSON instead of card service. I know Martin was saying earlier, like card service can be a little intimidating sometimes, but we also have the option in AppScript or any, especially other runtimes to use JSON. And that actually also allows you to customize more things like the icon for the smart chip or different elements. There's a lot more elements you can customize. My version was very simple. And I like that Kara used that version because, again, if you might have more of a use case that needs more complex customization of the smart chip. So there's a lot more options there too.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, quick question we've got. I'm going to, Kara, maybe you want to handle this one, or if not, I can handle it. Steve Schmidt asked a really good question. Will there be an API for adding chips, variables, for example? Anybody have any insights on that?
Oh, so is this asking, to programmatically add existing built-in chips?
Yes.
Well, I don't know that I have an answer, but I definitely +1 it.
Yeah,
it's the perfect answer. I +1 it as well.
Yeah, so there is already in the issue tracker, there already is an ask for this, which is getting upvoted. Please add to the upvotes. The answer is, yeah, they're absolutely looking at ways to do these things. I'm not sure of any plans yet, but this is definitely something that has been talked about. So again, keep giving us that feedback and allow us to makes folks aware that it's really, really, really a popular topic. I think document assembly is going to be a big piece around these, if it already isn't something. So cool. All right. Well, thank you for sharing that, Kara. Anyone have anything else? I know we went a little long, but I thought that was worth getting to look. What do we think?
I'm going off and I'm stealing Kara's idea.
Yeah.
It's only 9:00 p.m. here in the UK, so I've got at least 3-4 hours.
Alice, I know you're a little under the weather, but what do you think you're going to build?
Well, I've been like on a rant about lesson planning and rubrics lately, that a lot of the services that are out there for teachers is pretty bad, that you really need a good prompt builder that's pulling from actual resources and research. So I'm feeling like this could really help solve a problem that I have been ranting about for weeks. So I'm going to jump into that as soon as my head's clear.
I can imagine if you combined all three of the demos we saw today, you'd have a great ability to prompt with variables, bring it back, and do something interesting with it. I think sky's the limit. So with that, I think folks need to actually log off and go build things.
Yeah.
Any final words?
Well, thank you, guests.
Absolutely. That was awesome to say. I'm really excited about the demos.
Yeah, this was fun. Thank you all so much for having us.
So we'll be back in 2 weeks. More card-related talk, I believe, and also more AI-related talk.
Absolutely.
AI everywhere.
So we look forward to seeing you then. Until then, happy scripting.
Bye.